Well, good evening, Cornerstone and Cornerstone Nation out there across the world. We are finally at our last installment of Come and See, Could He Be? This is the part 20, and it's been a long journey. It's been from COVID beginning to what we hope is COVID end. The light is at the end of the tunnel there. We can see it fast approaching, and I think probably in a month or two things are going to be a good bit different than what they are right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're looking pretty good. So we're gonna finish up here with a little sheet, a little teaching called Who's in charge? Not bad. Well, actually, it's going to rhyme. Who's in? Starts with a D. It's 3 syllables. D-E. Who's in? It rhymes. It rhymes with who's in. Who's in delusion? Yes. Yes. Who's in delusion? Who's in delusion? If that title sounds a little funny to you, hopefully by the end of this will make much more sense why we titled it this way. So in this series, we have made an argument that the blanks of Christianity are true. It starts with a C. Claims, yes. The claims of Christianity are true, meaning that what'd you call them? So, meaning that starts with an H. Historical narrative. If Christianity is anything, it's historical. It's historical. It's history. Right? And so when you think, is that really history? Well, who's telling the history? History always comes down to who's actually telling it. Anybody can tell you what happened, but are you actually learning what took place? Is the person actually telling you what actually took place? Are they telling you their take on what took place? Are they telling you what they want you to think about history? When we have the Bible making claims, we're getting a historical narrative. Somebody's telling us this is what took place. All right? And there are many narratives out there, but we're saying that, meaning that the historical narrative and the spiritual realities, beautiful, the spiritual realities presented in the Bible are a reliable record and an accurate, close, it's another D-E word. We know that. Depiction. An accurate depiction, like a picture of reality. Those who believe in this description of reality have a Christian worldview. Yeah, have a Christian worldview. If you believe the Bible's presentation of reality, then you have a Christian worldview. And this worldview influences and there's a whole bunch of them. You can, perspectives, excellent. Values, excellent. Anybody? H-O? H-O? Hopes, yep. Our perspectives, values, hopes. Dreams, beautiful. F-E? Feelings. Feelings, dreams, feelings. O? choices. F-E again. F-E-A. Fears. L-O. Loves. Indeed, our whole life. Right, so your worldview is a big deal. Think of your life. What's not impacted? Perspectives, values, hopes, dreams, feelings, choices, fears, loves, your whole life. Christianity is not U-N-I. Unique. Christianity is not unique in this. All worldviews work the same way. Whatever worldview you have, it's going to also impact your perspectives, values, hopes, dreams, feelings, choices, fears. It will. The Muslims have their set of beliefs that they live by, as do the Jews and the atheists and those with a basically good person American religiosity. You can look it up if you want. Whatever you're living by, that's going to impact. I mean, think about it. So you know people who live by a basically good people go to heaven, and that impacts how they live out their lives. What do they fear when you talk about heaven and hell? Are they fearful or are they not fearful? No, they're not. Because they say, you ask them if they're going to heaven, they're like, yeah, I'm going to heaven. Why? Because basically good people go to heaven, and I'm basically a good person. And so that's their worldview, and that's what they live by. Now, should they fear? Whether or not they should fear is another question. But do they fear? However, blankly speaking, L-O, logically speaking, all these worldviews cannot, did I say all these worldviews cannot all be true? I did, okay. All these worldviews cannot be true. Actually, only one can be. This becomes quite obvious when we ask some basic questions like, who is God and what happens after we die? So though we are all living in the same reality, we have very different beliefs and understandings about it. You got that? So reality is the same, but people's beliefs about it, like what's happened from the beginning till now, is reality. And what is reality. But people's beliefs about how we got here and what has happened to bring us here and what is and what isn't. People's beliefs about these things are very different. Now, it may sound, I-N-S, insulting. It may sound insulting to think of people with other worldviews as being in delusion, as our title suggests. But what can be said about one who thinks reality is something other than what it is? Therefore, we really shouldn't be insulted much by Richard Dawkins' book, The Blank Delusion. The God Delusion. The God Delusion. Yeah. When we had our little seminar, we talked about Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion. Basically, he's saying those who believe in God are in delusion. Because you look at God and you say, well, the reason everything is the way it is because of God. God is at the center of our explaining everything. And he's saying, well, it's just a complete delusion, because if there is no God, you're just absolutely living in a fairy tale. You're living in, some idea that there is some supernatural meaning to everything that's going on. Supernatural explanation to everything going on, when it's just simply not the case, according to Richard Dawkins. And so we really shouldn't be insulted when he says that. Okay, now maybe he meant it to be insulting. My guess is probably he meant it to be at least insulting, certainly jarring. I'm okay with that. Only he knows what he really meant by it. But his conclusion about Christians is entirely blank with his atheistic position. C-O-N-S. S-I-S. Consistent. His conclusion about Christians is entirely consistent with his atheist position. And if he's right about no God, then he's done us a favor by telling us, as do we. Of course, the exact same thing could be said about Alistair McGrath's book. He gave a reply back, and he called it the Dawkins Delusion.
Wait, actually?
Yes. That's the title of his book, is The Dawkins Delusion. And basically, it's to reply back. He's basically saying, you think we're in delusion. Isn't that interesting? Because you're the one who's actually in delusion. And your delusion is then, part of your delusion, of course, requires you to think that we're the ones that are actually in delusion. But somebody's in delusion. So who's in delusion? Somebody's in delusion, because you got two people that are saying radically different, like one person says there is no God, another person says no, there's a God, and he's pretty much the explanation for everything. Like, there's no really in-between position on that. Right? It's not like, well, you're sort of right and you're sort of right. Right? I mean, there's no sort of, like, there's no God, and there's no sort of, yeah, there's a God that's like somebody's massively in delusion. Not just a little bit. Somebody's massively in delusion. So no, it is not ignorant, A-R-R-O, arrogant, or I-N-T-O. It is not ignorant, or arrogant, or I-N-T-O. L. Intolerant. It's not ignorant, it is not arrogant, nor is it intolerant to wonder which worldview gets it right and which ones don't. It's just simply logical, because they believe completely different things, mutually exclusive things. They can't both be right. And so though it would be nice to say, well, what you believe, Richard Dawkins, that's great, and what the Christians believe, that's great. Let's just leave it there. It's fine what they believe, and it's fine for them to believe what they believe. What you believe is true for you, and what you believe is true for you. That's all great, all fine and good, and let's just all just try to get along. And I think trying to get along is fine, but that doesn't necessarily mean, and I would say it absolutely doesn't mean, that we have to say what everybody believes is equally true. We treat each person with equal respect, and for their right to be able to hold to whatever view their conviction says is right. I mean, the whole idea of being tolerant assumes different beliefs. Why would I have to be tolerant of you if I got along with you in every last thing? Why would I have to be tolerant with you if I agreed with you on everything? I wouldn't be being tolerant at all. We'd be two peas of the same pod. We'd be together. The reason I have to tolerate you is specifically because we think different things. So it's not intolerant, nor is it arrogant, nor is it ignorant to think, wow, I wonder who's getting it right and I wonder who's not. Rather, determining which is true is reasonable and should be the all-important goal, yes, of discussing the differences between worldviews. I love these comparative religion classes that sometimes you guys take in high school. And the only thing they don't do is the only thing that really matters when you're comparing religions. The only thing that really matters when you're comparing religions, because they're all different, is then asking, okay, so which one do you think is right? That's the only question that never gets asked. That's the question that's not allowed to be asked. Is which one do you think is right? They're all just meant to be appreciated for their various differences. However, our culture is being trained to simply appreciate diverse beliefs, but never ask or answer the critical question, which is, which one of these is true? And a little bit more brutally sounding, I wonder which of us is in delusion. Because these beliefs, it's not just a matter of which one is true, but these beliefs formulate and determine your whole worldview, right? Your perspectives. I mean, think about it, anything that, like if you believe something's wrong and it is impacting your perspectives, values, hopes, dreams, feelings, choices, fears, loves, your whole life, I mean, that person is deep in delusion. Right? It's just beliefs that are greatly impacting their life. We've tried to demonstrate in this series that Christianity gives an overall, logically coherent, or I think I said another word. Coherent is good. I actually said cohesive. Cohesive, meaning held together. Coherent would be more that it's logically clear, whereas cohesive means it holds together. An overall, logically cohesive explanation for reality as we see it and experience it. Christianity is clear and blank STR. Straightforward. Christianity is clear and straightforward in answering the great questions of why are we here? Where did we come from? What are we to TH? What are we to think and do? I mean, all these are really, really important questions. Why is everything the way it is? In substance, I mean, like, why is there, like, look around, why is everything the way it is? And in character, too. Like, why do we do what we do? Why is mankind so bad? And why is mankind also have goodness? Why do we have justice? Why do we have love? Why are we the way we are? Bible, Christianity has an explanation for all of these things. It all makes perfect sense. It all holds together very cohesively. Is blank life all there is? Is this life all there is? We've argued that if Christianity, if the Christian story is true, then we should be Oh, sorry, not we, there. Sorry. Okay, let me say it again. We've argued that if the Christian story is true, there should be, yes, ample evidence to support this claim. Meaning then also that the claims of alternative worldviews are therefore without a solid foundation. That's if we're right. If the claims of Christianity are true, then we should be able to find ample evidence for it, and it also would mean that the claims of alternative worldviews would have to be without solid foundation, because they aren't true, and therefore would have no solid foundation for them. To blank this argument, to support this argument, we have considered facts, logic, and experience. For no matter how blank sounding, F, I, N, E, fine sounding, yes. For no matter how fine sounding, clever, S-I, S-I-N, sincere. So no matter how fine sounding, clever, sincere, and thought out a position may be, it must be able to stand up under blank to be worthy of our belief. S-C. Scrutiny. Scrutiny. Meaning put to the test. Like cross-examined. You might have a witness that gets up there in a court of law, and they say, oh, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, but then the other attorney gets up there and says, okay, well, what about this and this and this? And they're like, no, they don't stand up under scrutiny, or they do. Okay, where are we? There it is. All right, Christianity, as we have seen, makes many claims. Each one, if true, shines invaluable light. Shines invaluable light on the path that we should take. Now again, we're saying if true. Each one, if true, each claim does shine light on the path that we should take. Just in and of itself, each claim by itself is important, is valuable. All 20 that we've made, even though they hold cohesively together, each one is valuable. As we have seen, the scope and magnitude of these claims, I-N-V, I, invites, which is great. It does. Christianity makes so many claims, and so many extreme claims. They're extreme. The claims of Christianity are extreme, like the Bible is God's word, and therefore it does not err. Think about that. And then being like, and you're going to prove that? I mean, think of what that has to stand up to. Think of what that invites. You're telling me the Bible doesn't have any errors. That's right, I'm telling you it doesn't. So you tell me if I find an error in the Bible, we should toss it out. What do you think that's going to invite? You're like crazy. You tell me you believe Jesus rose from the dead. Yeah, so if I just simply prove that Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then, yeah, that's right, Christianity is done for if you prove that. And many have. Many have set out to try and do just that. I've mentioned to you a couple of times, there are some really good books out there. Evidence That Demands a Verdict was written by a lawyer, Josh McDowell, who set out to disprove Christianity, and he became a Christian. Who Moved the Stone was written by Sam Morrison, who approached it more like I think he was a detective, maybe, and he just said, well, let's just do the detective work on this, and we should be able to disprove this. Sam Storms also set out to disprove it. Not Sam Storms. Forget the other guy. Okay, there's at least 3 very well-known people that set out with the idea, I'm going to disprove this thing. And it invites, because the claims of Christianity, the extreme and the extreme nature of the claims and the magnitude of those claims just invite challenge. They invite a great opportunity to challenge and disprove Christianity. It's almost like Christianity's picking a fight by saying, I claim this, and I dare you to try and disprove it. If you disprove it, it's done. I mean, even Paul said, look, if Christ isn't raised from the dead, then we are of all people most to be pitied. Right? Because we're believing in a complete sham. But if you're willing to jump on the hot seat too, though, then you also have the ability then to say, okay, now let's consider what you believe. Let's consider the alternative that you believe, because you're staking everything on that as well. Shoot just one hole in it, and it no longer stays afloat. And to be sure, there has been no blank of effort to shoot many holes, no lack of effort to shoot many holes. But far from capsizing or even weakening Christianity, all the extraordinary attempts to destroy it have only served to increase its credibility. I think, that not everybody would say. I would think there'd probably be people like, certainly say Christianity has been completely disproved. This wouldn't be in the eyes of everybody, but I think certainly in the eyes of the church, for those who have taken a strong look at it. I mean, you ask Josh McDowell, where he, has he found credibility as he's examined these things, and has he found that Christianity is credible? I think he would certainly say that it is, and searching out these things have only increased the credibility of one that is a true seeker of the truth. Why? Because the truth blanks light and scrutiny. L-O. Loves. The truth loves light and scrutiny. If it's the truth, it loves to be asked. It delights in being put on the hot seat. Blank side its challengers. Alongside its challengers. It's not afraid of hard questions. Not at all. Rather, it welcomes them. Right? It welcomes hard questions. Ask me the hard ones. Ask me the hard questions. Why ask the hard questions? Because they help with making comparisons between claims and lets the cream rise to the top. Right? It's when you actually take the time to make the comparisons and ask the hard questions that the truth starts coming out. All right, I'm going to do one more paragraph, then we're going to have a quick game, and then we're going to finish this up. We have provided a step-by-step argument for the blankness, R-E-A-S, reasonableness. We have provided a step-by-step argument for the reasonableness of Christianity's claims based on a faithful examination of the evidence. Meaning that every attempt to refute Christianity's claims and to provide better alternative explanations has failed. We have tried to demonstrate this on a point-by-point basis. For example, we considered the claims God created stuff. The universe was especially made for life. That life came from God. That the Bible contains F-U-L, fulfilled. That the Bible contains fulfilled prophecies. And Jesus rose from the dead. Those are just a sampling. Thus, each particular claim by itself should be a convincing, is convincing and reason to believe. Is convincing and reason to believe. So each claim, as we've taken it step by step by step, it's important that we have to examine each claim as each claim has been specifically challenged. Every claim has been very, very specifically challenged, and we need to take those challenges seriously and address them, and then consider them against the alternatives. And as we've done so, I think we've shown that in each of the claims, the evidence supports that there is a convincing reason to believe in Christianity, and to believe the Christian claim over any alternative claim. All right, now, so number your pages at some point from 1 to 6, and on our final day of this particular series, you now have a test on final days. All right. So, number 1, we're going to start easy. What is, some of you guys know this, that's right, just like this. What is the final day of winter? What is the final day of winter? Date. The date. The date every year is exactly the same. Trust me, it is. All right, hold on. All right, write down your answer. Write down a date right now, and then I'll tell you the answer to that one right now. All right, everybody, write it down. You got 5 seconds to write it down. 5. Write something down. Jake, come on, write it down. Okay, good. Here we go. What is the last day of winter?
Winter in Northern Hemisphere began on Monday, December 21st, 2020, and ends on Saturday, March 20th, 2021 Eastern Time.
March 20th, that's the last day, March 20th. Okay. What is the last day? What is the last day? Oh, you're gonna nail me on this one too. But typically speaking, in a normal year, when the last day is during the week and not on a weekend, when is the last day to file taxes? When is the last day? When is the last day to file taxes? The last day to file your taxes. All right, here's another cheesy kind of question. Which day of the week will be the last December 31st of this year? So what day of the week is the last day? All right, question number 4. So that one you're just writing down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All right, number 4. What was the year of the last Harry Potter movie? What was the year of the last Harry Potter movie? What you just said. All right. When did Number 5. When did Beethoven write his last work? Was it 1794? Was it 1824? Or was it 1854? 1994. I'm sorry, 1794. 1794, 1824, and 1854. And number 6, yeah. When is the final day to file your taxes? Usually speaking, it's the same day if it's a weekday. If it's the weekend, they'll take that day, but then they'll let you file it on the Monday after. So it's once a year. Like today, like this year, people are working on their taxes for 2020. You got to pay your taxes for what you made in 2020. When is the last day to file those taxes? There's a final date to file your taxes. The span would be everything that you made for 2020. When is the last day to file? When is the last day to file your taxes? Okay, and the final one is, when was the last time that the Redskins won a Super Bowl? The last time that the Redskins won a Super Bowl. Was it 1988, 1998, or 2008? The last time that the Redskins won a Super Bowl. 88, 98, or 2008? Okay. Answers are out there to everybody. There'll be a prize for anybody who wins this. So out there, we'll definitely text Becca. Let Becca know somehow or other what your score was, if it's significantly good. All right, so the first one we know, winter, March 20th. Last day to file taxes normally is April 15th. Final day of this year, 2021, is going to be a Friday. Last Harry Potter movie came out in 2011. Beethoven wrote his last work in 1824.
What about 1994?
And the last time the Redskins won the Super Bowl was in 88. All right. If you got 3 or more, raise your hand. 4 or more, raise your hand. 5 or more, raise your hand. All right. You out there, Cornerstone Nation out there, across the world, if you got 4 or more, touch base with Becca. Micah, you got 4? You got 4? All right. So Micah and Jake both got 4. Let's have a nice hand for Micah and Jake over there. All right, flip your pages over. I guess you already have. We're going to finish this puppy up. We're going to boogie nice and good here. All right, everybody ready to rock and roll here? All right. However, the main goal, so I was talking about specifically looking at the claims. We went laboriously, claim by claim by claim by claim, but we also did something else. I don't know if you caught it, and this I think is sort of a unique way of just kind of packaging what you could find almost anywhere, but we packaged it, I think, in a unique way, an important way. However, our main goal in this series is to bring the claims together and organize them in a FOL. FOLL. Followable. Followable order. In a followable order. When we do this, we reap 3 benefits. So we didn't just look at the claims, we looked at the claims in a specific order and in relationship to each other. There was a reason that we took them in the order that we took them, and we brought them together the way we did. And there's 3 things that you reap from that. One is we see how the claims all fit and work together to point us to Jesus as the Messiah. They're cohesive. They work off of each other, and they actually support one another. So for instance, the first ones talk about the existence of God, and then talk about how the idea that a God would communicate to us, and that is there any evidence that a God has communicated to us? Yes. And then when we read what that God has communicated to us, we read this in support of the claims that came before as well. So it all fits together really nicely, and they kind of build off each other and they support one another. Number 2, we have a helpful map that allows us to see where we stand in relation to the claims of Christianity, and blank where we need more knowledge. IND. What? INDE. N. T. I. F. Y. Identify. Identify. Did I say IN? Yeah, you said IN. If I said IN, forgive me. I meant identify. I did. ID. It's I. Sorry. I can remember that now. It's identify. It's very important to be identify where we need more knowledge. So somebody could take this whole series, spread it out in front of them, and just very quickly be able to see where do I fit in all this. They might look like, and they may look at it and just say, I don't agree with any of this. This is garbage. And they say, okay, well then start at the beginning. Start all the way at the beginning. I think it'd be helpful for somebody to start at the beginning anyway, but they might say, well, I don't have any problem with God, but I definitely have a problem with the Bible. You go, okay, right there, bam. Well, I'm not so sure about the resurrection of Jesus. I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet. Okay, fine. Well, then click in there. I mean, there'd be a way to identify where you stand in relation to the claims and get some idea of where you need more knowledge. Maybe the third one is the most important to me, was to see a complementary and COM. COMPI. Compiling. We want our argument to compile. So what I was saying was each argument is significant. People have become Christians simply by trying to figure out whether Jesus rose from the dead or not, for instance. That is powerful enough in and of itself. But we don't just have that. We have a compiling argument, and we'll demonstrate that in a second, just a little bit more here. But a compiling argument so that the weight of the evidence mounts on top of us like a blank that can't be moved, a mountain that can't be moved. Mounds on top of us, so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just more and more and more and more and more. And the weight of it at some point is so great that there's just simply no place to move. So that as you guys have gone through this, even if you wanted to walk away from it, you're like, if I walk away from it, then I have to be, if I'm walking away from this, then I have to be walking toward some alternative that fails. Not just in this area, but in this area, in this area, in this area, in this area. I'm just walking toward failure from what I've already seen is a reasonable explanation according to the facts that are out there. And now, what am I going to choose instead? Not just in one area, but in area after area after area. But if the evidence is so clear, how do people end up rejecting Christianity? If it's so clear, how do people end up rejecting Christianity? How does someone pick nothing over God as the Creator? Now, that was the very first one that we examined. And I cannot, I don't think there's any way that I could try to, say how massive it is that they do that. That they would pick nothing over God. I can't even, it's just hard to even put into words. Just right off the bat, that they have absolutely, and we're not living in like the medieval times or anything. We are living in the scientific world, right? And they still say, well, who knows? Maybe someday some kid will grow up and be able to answer some of these questions that we don't know. We're like, you don't have anything when it comes to where stuff comes from. Nothing. You got no starting place whatsoever. The best thing you have right now is nothing, and you choose that instead of the only obvious option. I think it's just beyond words. But part of me just feels like you just don't even really need to go beyond that. But we have, and it's important that we do, I think. But so how does somebody pick nothing over God as Creator? Or how do they conclude there's a multiverse without any evidence? And I just put in paren there. In solving one problem, they create a bigger one. They have no idea where the universe came from. And now, to get rid of the fact that the universe, to somehow get around the fact that the universe is so beautifully and perfectly created to support life, so unbelievably, astronomically fine-tuned for life, that it absolutely points to the universe being made for purpose, being made for life. They opt for a multiverse that is virtually an infinite amount of universes, so that one like ours will just simply have to be, if there's an infinite amount of universes, and we just happen to live in the one that can support life. That's why you're here, because you just happen to live in the one universe, so that's in, what do they say, 10 to 500 universes out there. There's just no way to even imagine how big that number is, of how many universes it would take for one like ours to be inevitable, and yet they opt for that, and so they don't even know where our universe came from, and now they gotta answer for where did 10 to the 500 universes come from, and then not just like, and then what would generate a universe, and then if there's some sort of generating something that generates universes, where did that thing come from? What made the generator of universes? And you still have the problem just going back and back, and well, what made that? What made that? What made that? Just like, remember the whole turtles all the way down, and we just said, is it universal generators all the way down? What is it? But in solving one problem, they solved the one problem that, yes, a universe like ours would be inevitable if there were an infinite amount of universes. But now they've created a much bigger one, because now they have to answer for where then does the multiverse come from? It's just, they create even a much, much harder problem. How can they choose to believe in a D-I-S. D-I-S-I-N. T-R. Disinterested. How can they choose to believe in a disinterested and unintelligent source for DNA? I mean, if you found a book on a deserted island that nobody ever had been before, you would know what? Somebody's been there before, or it fell out of a plane, but there's no way that book just came into existence by itself. And you have DNA that would be a book that would be 60 stories high of information that is ordered. Where does that come from? How can you just say, unintelligent? You just dismiss it, unintelligent. How can they scoff at easily, testable? How can they scoff at easily testable, fulfilled prophecies demonstrated in the Dead Sea Scrolls? Or just imagine placing your bet on the belief that Jesus, S-U-R, survived being crucified. I mean, who does that? Who survives being crucified? Right? The Roman centurion and his crew were tasked to do, like, when you ever say, you just got one job. Like, they only got one job, and that's to make sure they're dead. All right? Any one of these beliefs, by the way, that's where Bill Nye goes. Bill Nye says that. To get away from the resurrection, it's just, there's just no way he actually died on the cross. Because I ain't believing that he rose from the dead. Because if he rose from the dead, now I got to believe that he's God or that God exists. I ain't going there, so I'm going to go anywhere other than there. What's left? Well, if the only thing that's left is that Jesus didn't actually die on the cross, then guess where I'm going to go? But again, it's not just that. All these are compiling. It's not just one of these. Any one of these beliefs would be taking an extreme, unfounded position. But does it not I don't even know what this one is. Does it not? Oh, I know what this one is. D-E. F. Defy. But does it not defy comprehension that one could so consistently? Does it not defy comprehension that one could so consistently land on many astronomically unlikely possibilities? So it's not just the one thing, but like we've made a compiling argument on top of another thing, on top of another thing, on top of another. It's not just that you don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead and you think he survived it, but you're also saying that there is no fulfilled prophecy when we know that they're the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you're also saying that the universe, there must be a multi-universe, and you're also saying, I believe. You're not just believing one thing. It's not just one thing. It's all of them. To be consistent, it can't just be one. They can't give us any, which means that they have to reject them all. And in every case, rejecting them all is taking an extreme, unfounded position, because these are astronomically unlikely possibilities, particularly when you get to like life coming into existence by itself. I mean, how can you look at the cell and even think it? But don't we have to at least ask? Don't we have to at least ask if something else is going on? Like, come on, so consistently take that position and never budge? Christianity has an explanation for such a state of D-E-N? Denial. and it is the final appeal of this series. This claim states that the sinful condition of mankind includes having blanked views of God, D-I-S. Distorted views of God that make us fear and hate and hide from him to the point of blanking him out of our conscience. S-U-P-P-R-E-S. Yes. So they have a distorted view of God that includes, fearing, hating, hiding from him to the point of suppressing him out of our conscience. Suppressing him out of our conscience. When they say they don't know God, they don't believe in God, they're not lying. But they are suppressing. They are suppressing, and it is an extreme state of fear and hate and hiding. This is the Christian claim of what's actually going on. What else could possibly explain it? This allows us to live lives free from ACK, acknowledging his existence and making sure we, N-E-V, we N-E-V-E-R, we never have to. We never have to. The goal then of the hiding is to make sure you never have to acknowledge God's existence. Never having to. In this state, we are cut. We are cut off from our only hope by chaining ourselves to a denial of him at all costs. And why that's down there, I have no idea. Not up there. At all costs, period. That's great. That is so weird. At all costs. And the cost here is taking the extreme positions that they have to take. Surely the easy objection to this claim of Christianity, that this is the condition that they are in, the easy objection to this claim is that it is oh so, C-O-N-V, convenient. It is oh so convenient for Christianity to say, if you don't believe it, it's because you're in a D-E-L-U, you're in a delusion of reality. Well, that's pretty easy for Christianity to say, hey, this is what's true, and they're like, oh, I don't believe that. Oh, well, that's just because you're in delusion. I mean, like, how convenient is that? You don't agree with me, and now I say, oh, well, that's just because you're in delusion. You didn't know that, but you're in delusion. Of course, if you weren't in delusion, you would believe me. But because you're in delusion, you don't believe me. That is annoying. I mean, honestly, that is annoying. That's not what we're doing, but we're going to say, okay, fair enough. Any worldview could say that about others, and they do. So that point is noted, but this claim is only mentioned here at the end of our examination of the blanks in evidence. F-A-C. Facts in evidence. All right, we didn't start with this claim. It is annoying to hear, I get it. But we didn't start with the claim. It's only at the very, very end of the claim. It is the final appeal that we are making here at the end. It's the final. It is the final appeal to anyone who still rejects Jesus as the Savior of the world sent by God. You are therefore urged to blank the positions you are choosing to believe. C-O-N. Consider. You are urged to consider. All right, last paragraph. If in the blank of your own mind, P-R-I-V. What? Privacy, yes, excellent. If in the privacy of your own mind you find yourselves holding firmly to views that you really cannot D-E-F-E-N, defend, and should be doubting, if you're beginning to wonder if it really is the facts that are causing you to dig in your heels. Like, is it really the facts? Is that really why you're digging in your heels? Because the facts are just so overwhelming? Are you starting to wonder? If you suspect that maybe your reason for your views could be to insulate, could be to insulate you from having to acknowledge the existence of God, then guess what? You are in good, C-O-M-P. You're in good company. You're in good company. Many great believers in God, S-T-A, started the same way. The Bible describes our disbelief in God and our resistance. The Bible describes our disbelief in God and our resistance to any knowledge that points us to Him. But it also says that God knows and understands our thoughts and resentment that, D-R-I, drive us away from Him. He knows all that. He knows how we're made. He knows what we've done. He knows what we think. He knows how we hide. He knows how we resent. And far from forsaking us, He longs to forgive us and is ready to C-E-L. Celebrate our return. We've, N-E-V, never had a truer friend, and as such, He sent His own Son to be our Messiah, that we might be rescued from the dominion of darkness and bring us into the kingdom of the Son He loves. He never has and never will turn away any who call upon His name through Jesus Christ. So, come and see Jesus, for surely He could be the Messiah.
At least it wasn't it, people. At least it wasn't it.
Not Bruce Wiley. What are the last two blanks? The end. All right, guys. Nice job. Nice job, everybody. You guys did great. These are the longest teachings that Cornerstoners have had to sit through. But again, what we were trying to do is establish a framework around which we're going to be able to build a whole bunch of stuff. These talks may very well not even be a part of the finished product, but they do establish a framework. So we're going to be trying to build something here that you'll be able to access and hopefully use for the rest of your life, and hopefully your children will be able to use it, and you'll be able to be like, I was there when they were taught for the very first time. All right, let's pray. And Becca, did anybody come? No? Okay. All right. So looks like Micah and Jake are the big winners. We may have to rock, paper, scissors a little bit there, but let's pray here. Father, thank you so much for allowing us to complete this series. And we are grateful for the things we've been able to consider, just the vast scope of them. And time again, we have found that you have given us good reason to believe the things that we're told in your scriptures are true. And they're backed up again and again by what we've been able to examine and the evidence and the facts. Lord, we thank you that we don't learn these things on our own, but we know that it is your good desire and your pleasure to draw us to yourself and lead us to you through our minds and into our hearts, that we would rejoice in coming to know the truth, and not just in knowing the things that are true, but in realizing what that means about having a relationship with you, that you would actually send your son, that you really did. You sent him, and he came here, and he suffered terribly and died for us because we needed somebody to do that for us. And if he didn't do that for us, then we would have had to suffer that. And you were not willing for that to be the case. And so you laid your life down for us, and we couldn't be more grateful. And so we pray that you would give us a great desire to live out of this knowledge that we have, and to serve you and bless you all our days on this earth. Thank you for all this. Pray that you bless these students now and for the rest of their lives. And may many of these things that we've discussed here stay with them and sink deep into their hearts and in their minds. Thank you for all this in Jesus' name. Amen.